topic today is social media advertising. And really this came about at one of our networking events where we were asking folks, what are some topics that everybody was interested in exploring? And this came up a couple times. And so we went out and tried to find some folks that would talk about that. And I will tell you, surprisingly, on my side, it was hard to get some people to talk about the subject. And then we reached out to Social Media Energy that was located in Inglewood at one time. I think, Luke, you guys have moved. And we asked them, and someone at their firm said, "Oh, Luke would love to speak about that. It would be a lot of fun." So let me introduce Luke Wyckoff from Social Media Energy. And Luke, we're pretty informal here. We'll just let you take it away and share your thoughts, and then we'll have a Q&A after, and that will be it.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thanks so much. And thanks for everybody taking a couple minutes over your lunchtime today. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the TED Talk style. I like to go hard and fast for about 20 minutes, hit 2 or 3 really great learning points, and then have you ask a lot of questions. And so, and hopefully you were not excited the fact that I would be sharing screen and showing PowerPoint slides and all sorts of other things. You won't get that from me when I present. I'm a storyteller. I have a lot of stories. What's really fun is I'm looking around the room here, and there are some great familiar faces that some of you I haven't seen in a really long time. So it's great to see all of you. Hope everyone's healthy and wonderful. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Luke Wyckoff, and I'm the founder of Social Media Energy. And the company was actually founded on a mistake. It's an absolute mistake. My background's industrial and organizational psychology. So if you want to have another conversation sometime and really go to sleep, we can have some awesome conversations about how to assess people for high potential and take psychological testing to a whole new level. That would be a really fun one. In fact, that would be a learning lab where everyone has a beaker of like Jägermeister, and like they would have to, every time I say a key word, you'd have to do a shot. That, there's a whole idea. David, go ahead and take that and run with it. I'm thinking that today I'm going to share with you a few things about social media and advertising, but the company was founded as an absolute mistake. I was in presenting to the senior management team of Health One, and all of you know who Health One are here in Colorado, 13 of the largest hospitals altogether, and I had all the CEOs in the room, and we were talking about psychological assessments and testing. I get done with the presentation, and one of the CEOs from Rose Medical Center, he says, "You started your whole company using LinkedIn and Facebook, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." Now, keep in mind, this was 12 years ago. Think where you were 12 years ago. And so I said, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "What is all that stuff?" And I said, "Do you want to know about social media?" And I looked around the room and all the CEOs were just nodding their heads. So I hopped up on the whiteboard and I whiteboarded out a 3-month strategy for all of Health One. And I got done, and Jeff Dorsey, who was the CEO over the whole system at the time, some of you know Jeff very well, he says, "Why don't you just do that for us?" And I said, "Do what?" He's like, "All that stuff you just said you could do." And I didn't say I could do it. I said, "This is what you should be doing." He goes, "Yeah, we don't have anybody here that knows how to do that. Just do it for us." I said, "So you want to outsource your social media to me like you outsource accounting or IT?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Let me think about that." So I went and got my study buddies together from the University of Colorado in my executive MBA program, and because I could convince them to do anything for single malt scotch. And we sat all of us together. We pro formed out the whole company. I walked it back in and they said, "Yep, let's do it." And there's a lot of business owners on this company, on this call right now. I want you to think about that. They said, "Yep, let's do it." I walked out the door. I didn't have a name for the company. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a logo. I certainly didn't have an email address or a phone number. I had what every business owner wants to have: a paying customer and a paying client. So fast forward 12 years, we've got 16 employees. We do social media in 5 different languages. We have had over 450 clients. in the last 12 years. It's been an amazing run. And in full disclosure to everyone on the call, and Brian knows this actually, I pretty much retired 3 years ago. So I am still the chairman of the board and the owner of the company, and I do a lot of speaking and talk about things that we're going to be talking about today. But as far as the day-to-day operations of the company, I fired myself 3 years ago and replaced myself with a woman who was 20 times better than me to actually run the company, the day-to-day operations. I got out of the way only to watch the company almost double in size, realizing that I was the biggest cog holding everything back. We as business owners sometimes think that we are the smartest kid in the room and that, God, this whole thing couldn't run if it wasn't for me. I got news for you. It can run if you were not in the room. And I'm living proof of that. So I get a chance to speak and talk and tell some stories about some things that have happened over the years. And especially when it comes to this topic, which is, advertising and advertising in this space. Some people don't come from an advertising background. I tend to connect very interestingly with a lot of engineers and people who have very high tech products and things, where being bold in a world of advertising would be like literally hitting the bold button when you're making text for an ad. And so the first thing I like to start off with when I talk about advertising is understanding who your audience is going to be and the whole purpose of why you're even going to do any advertising. And so I came up with some of the bigger reasons that I've seen over the years of why people actually ran ads. Obviously, the first one is, an increase of your brand awareness, making sure people know who you are. Now, that is a very different verbiage, very different look and feel than someone who is trying to just grow a larger audience. They're trying to get more followers. They're trying to get more people to follow the brand. That's different from educating people on the brand to growing the brand. There's another whole area where people just want to connect with their audience better. They want to completely connect and talk to their audience, which we'll end with something later. Increase website traffic. So if you have a product where people are buying those products on the website, obviously that is a great reason why people are running running that, where they're pushing more people to their website. And then generating more leads, just generating more leads, and obviously make more money and sales. And people will ask the question all the time, and hopefully this will come up when we're in the question and answer. We'll talk about how do you measure the success of any of these. The first question I'll ask everybody is, do you know your cost per sale? Now you're getting into the science of, here's what my acquisition costs are for a new customer. Do you know what that is? Because that will determine whether you had a successful a digital ad campaign or not. Do you understand what that cost per sale is? And once you understand that, it's going to be a lot easier to do the math. So in each of those areas that I was just talking about, the message is completely different. And in advertising, the bold are the people that are making the difference and being able to make a big difference with their ads. So laying out the goals and objectives. Having the solid plan and understanding who the target audience is. Let me give you a great example of something that we've done with clients, and please feel free to steal this, take it, run with it. It's part of my digital goal that I've been using for years. But I have gone out and interviewed the top 10 to 15 customers of a lot of my clients, where I've gone out and actually interviewed them, find out, why do you use their product or service? What is it about this company? And 9 times out of 10, I then come back with a complete research report, which has all been data run against these 15 people. And I hold that up against their digital strategy, right? I hold that up and say, did you notice that nothing on your website says anything that your customers thought was important, right? You were just dedicated to your product. Congratulations, you've got a product. Great. But the whole reason why people love your product, why they buy your service, all of these things, none of that was built into any of your website content or any of your social media posts that you've been doing. So if it's not already built into the things that you're sending people to, it's tough to build a digital advertising or social media advertising platform if you don't have that solid plan in place and know what's that trigger point for each of your customers, people that buy those types of things. And then knowing that the purpose of this advertising is for Katie, that cat is so cute. I got to tell you, that cat is beautiful. Oh, don't apologize. I love the cat. It's awesome. See, what got my attention was the cat. What is Katie selling? Cat food. I'm all about what's going on with the cat. It gets your attention. We are going to talk about that in just a little bit. So thank you for doing that. It's almost like teeing it up for me. But when you start off and you're putting together that plan, the first part of that is understanding who is it you're going to do it and what type of audience are you going after. An ad that you would run on LinkedIn, which is much more of a business, right? Much more focused in a much more business area, is completely different than what you would run on Pinterest or what you're going to run on Instagram or Facebook, right? The ad could have the exact same focus, okay? The exact same focus of brand awareness, but the way that you went about it has to be tailored to the audience that are using the types of social media platforms that you're going after. And so it's not so dissimilar to putting up a huge grid, right? That says, you know, our first project is going to be around brand awareness and across the top. The next one's going to be around driving people to the website. The next one's going to be around sales. The next one's going to be, and then on the left-hand side is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, right? Across the left-hand side. And then each of those little squares, right? You would see how you would design and think through what's going to go to that exact audience. So let me stop for a second and say that most people, so don't feel strange or odd in this way. Most people, when they go to run an ad, they're like, oh, I'm just going to run an ad. And here's what everybody does. They go to Google Images and they go grab an ad. They go grab a picture and they might put a little verbiage on it. And then they throw it out there to everybody else. And they might even target some people and they'll say, okay, there it is. There's the ad. It's out there. And then they wonder why they weren't getting any types of click-throughs. They're not getting the type of success rate that they thought they were going to get. So rule number one, if you're taking notes today, stop using clip art and stop using generic photography. Okay. Number one, look at Angela showing the love. Forrester showing the love, right? Yep. So all of that stuff is done. Why? It didn't even get your attention. You're not even getting my attention. Advertising is supposed to grab your attention. Do you drive through Cherry Creek and look up at the ads that are on the billboards? Did one of those ads get your attention? Why? Because it got your attention. First exercise I have people do, my clients do, I have them hop on their Instagram feeds live in a meeting, in a kickoff meeting, and we're going to go through your Facebook and your link in your Instagram, and you are going to say, and anybody in the room is going to say, stop. This is an exercise I do, by the way. Ready? Stop. Guess what? You just landed on an ad that actually got your attention. Now, what was it about that attention that got your ad? Money says it was targeted exactly to you. Money says that it had animation or motion, and that it was not a static image, that it grabbed your attention, and it was asking you to do something. It was saying, would you like to learn more? Sign up for, learn more about, purchase, buy. You know, it's asking you to do something. It's not just sitting out there. So I was working with a tech company out of New York, and we're sitting in their offices, and we're talking about advertising and how we're running digital ads. And they were showing me the result of some of their digital ads. And I came in and they allowed me to have control over their social media for the 90 minutes that we were going to be in the room. And I immediately hopped in, which I was very prepped and ready. And I started an ad. right at the very beginning of the meeting. And at the end of the 90 minutes, we pulled up that ad against all the other ads they had run, and it was 4-1. They were getting so much more traction with an ad that I had run in 90 minutes than ads that they had run in over a day. And what do you think the difference was? The difference was all they talked about was product. Product, 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 product. It's like you're waking up next to a used car salesman and every morning you know the price of an 89 Corolla. You're that boring, okay? Advertising is not boring. I ran an ad with these people showing that the guy that worked for their CFO happened to hold the Guinness Book of World Records for riding the tallest unicycle. Okay? It was a very culture-driven type of ad showing how cool this company was. You want to work with this company because they have cool people that work for the company, right? So you're hitting them at an emotional level, not a product level, because people get bored with that. And if you are going to talk about products, you want to talk about it from a much more exciting perspective. Oh, and by the way, let's get this whole PC culture out of all of you, like right now, because we can't have an ad that offends someone. Oh God, you can't have an ad that offends someone. Guess what? Yeah, you can. Absolutely, you can. Because who cares? If it's not your target population, I don't give a shit if it pisses someone off. If I hit my target population and blew my numbers out, case example, worked with a company who had developed an algorithm for fantasy football to better do your fantasy football. You can download their app and it helps you do all of your when you're in picking your teams, right? It's an algorithm for picking your teams, right? Well, they were averaging about 1,200 hits per week on their website. We ran one ad. Within 48 hours, they had 20,000 hits to their website. Guess what the ad was? It was an ad of a guy in bed with two girls. And it said, winning your fantasy football league, only one of life's goals. Okay? Did that piss some people off? Damn straight it did. Did their profits shoot through the absolute roof? Yeah, it did. Because we killed it with the amount of people we shot to their website. So if you're in a PC world, I'm suggesting don't do any advertising unless you're just going to say, have a nice day. Because then maybe you will only piss off people who are not having a nice day. Advertising is meant to target a very specific audience. It's meant to get to the heart of very, very specific people. And so once you've got that target, you're going after exactly who you're trying to get. Now, when we're designing when we're designing digital ads for those different crowds, we are very specific on who we're trying to reach in each of those areas. For example, if it's someone on LinkedIn, right? It's going to be a very polished, very business look. If it is Instagram, it's going to be built into their stories. It's going to be built into very high visually appealing. If it is Pinterest, it's all visually appealing. And so the biggest changes in the things that we're seeing with things that are happening right now in social media, especially in the understanding your audience, is that no one has ever really went out and looked carefully at the demographics of who you're going after. A lot of people will run an ad and they'll put it out to everybody. Now, does anyone have interns? Tell you what, do you want to know one of my biggest learning points in being social media? I'm going to be 51 in a couple weeks. So in the world of social media, I'm a grandpa, okay? I am considered one of the oldest people on the planet that happens to own a digital marketing agency. The kids that are coming in underneath me, first of all, none of them even use email, right? They don't use email. Email is what your grandparents use, right? They barely even use Facebook. It's all Instagram, TikTok, and a lot of other tools and other these things. So when I'm working with a college or a university, right? And they're trying to target people with Facebook. This happens all the time, right? They're trying to target this next generation of people using Facebook ads. I go, really? These kids hate Facebook. It's what their parents do. That's not even what they're into. You want to run an ad, you run it in TikTok, right? You run it in the social media platforms where they're sitting. But this happens all the time that we'll put an ad out on Instagram and Facebook and keep it so broad, and it's like we're spraying, we're not shotgun. We're putting it way out here, and we're not being exactly focused on who we want to be. So what I tell clients to do, and what I'm telling all of you to do. So the first thing, if you guys remember, I'm asking you to be bold. I'm asking you to put yourself out there and to be very bold with the way you design your ads. The second thing I would say is do a lot of A/B testing. We A/B test everything. So we will run if our target population is females between the ages of 40 and 60. Okay. That's what the client thought was their audience, because those are the females that are worried about skin cream. Okay, between 40 and 60. What they didn't realize that that was our A/B test. The first A test was who they thought their audience was, which was between 40 and 60. What they didn't realize is that more than 50% of the people who were buying their products were under the age of 40. They were between the ages of 25 and 40. But they didn't know that until I asked the question of, you're wondering why these ads aren't going great. Let's go ahead and target a younger population and see what happens. And sure enough, it absolutely exploded. They had never realized that because they didn't know their customer. All you see, when you see orders coming in or people that are using products and services, a lot of times when it's a product, you're looking at spreadsheets. It doesn't tell you behind the scenes, where does this person hang out? Where do they go for all of their news feeds? What type of things are they reading? What type of TV shows are they watching? All of this stuff can be digitally targeted in your advertising when you're going after the exact population that you want to target. And so being able to focus on that population and then run A/B tests, run one test to one group and run one test to another, and see which one works. If it's 50-50, you're pretty close. If it's 80-20, you got 80% better performance on one, then you drop the 20, you throw the 80 out there and run another test that's closer to that 80 and see if it performs even better. So you're constantly dialing in. That's why I love you guys call this topic the lab, the 101 lab, right? Because it's a total laboratory. You're practicing and testing and practicing and testing to see how that's going to work and to see if it would work at all. And so when you're doing that and you're looking at and you're dialing that in, once you've got that dialed in, then you put together a series of ads that would target that exact same population around the successes that have already happened. Now, interestingly enough, this is where you put a little comma in my presentation today and go, what are you asking them to do? Because in the new world of digital and social media, I can buy right from your Facebook page. I can buy right from your Instagram account. I don't even have to go to your website. There's ways that people can buy directly from you without ever having to go to your website. But just so happens that about 95% of everybody still sends people to a website. And what happens when that happens, when you send people to a website? Well, that's one click, right? Hence my comment around being Amazon easy. Do you make it easy to buy from you? How easy is it to learn more about your service, to make a phone call, to connect with you, to buy your product and service? How quickly can somebody get there? Because let me give you a big old clue phone. If it's more than 2 clicks, you're already old. Okay? If it's more than 2 clicks, you're already old. I can get an Uber driver here within 1 click, drive me anywhere. I can have Amazon deliver something to me within 2 clicks. We live in an Amazon easy society. If we haven't made our websites Amazon easy by the time we send people there, just look at your Google Analytics and your drop rates. Look where people bounce. You sent them there from an ad, and all of a sudden they're gone. Why? Because they're 2 or 3 clicks in and they can't get to what you asked them to do. I call that wasted advertising dollars. Yeah, we've completely just wasted our advertising dollars because we sent people there and it was too hard to click and too hard to find out what it is you're trying to actually have them do. That's a huge mistake. Now, one thing that I love to do, here's a little underneath the social media energy hood that I love to do. I'm a huge fan of redirect ads. You guys all know what redirect ads are, right? Sometimes they're defined as different things, but I'll give you an example. So, Carol, you might have gone and looked at a pair of shoes somewhere, but you didn't buy that pair of shoes, right? But then there's an ad that starts to follow you all over the internet. Wherever you go, it's not just a pair of shoes. It's not just DW shoe, whatever shoe store it was. It's the actual pair of shoes that you were looking at, right? That ad starts to follow you everywhere you go, right? All over the internet. I love that stuff because it drives people to conversion. At some point in your time, like, I have to have that Versace purse. I just have to have it, right? Because it just followed you around everywhere. One of the tricks that we do in digital advertising is I don't care where they go on your website. All I want is that digital thumbprint that I can redirect ads to. Now follow me here. Once I've gotten enough interest off of an Instagram ad or a Twitter ad or a Facebook ad that they actually click to your website, I now have your digital thumbprint, right? And I can follow them with ads for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, whether you ask them to do anything at all. And that is where conversions start to come into play. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether you're selling trinkets or you have a carpet cleaning service, right? My ad is going to be, are those carpets still dirty? Yep. What does a dirty carpet say to your guests? I'll sit there all day and run 5, 6 different creative digital ads that are all geared towards dirty carpet. Why? Because I know you clicked my cleaning company, and now I'm coming after you digitally until you finally, you know what? We should have our carpets cleaned. Click. And then it just converts. Those type of things just convert. There are a couple things that are happening right now in the world of digital ads. I love some people will run they'll run contests and competitions to drive engagement and to drive fans. We did a really fun one for Remax a couple of years ago where they had their bring their dog to work day, bring your pet to work day. And then we ran digital ads when people would take pictures with their animals, because people literally dressed up like their animals. And we had competitions to see who looked most like their animal, right? Who looked most like the animal that they brought to work that day. We had 1.5 million people click on that because it was fun. It was engaging. But that doesn't fly with a lot of companies that they're going to do those contests and competitions. But it is something in the digital world that people like to experiment with. The captivating copy, though, that's really where it's all gonna come into play. And you want to stay away from stuff that's too salesy. If it feels like it's too salesy, people don't want to be sold to. They want to be touched at the emotional level of why people buy brands, why people connect with brands, why do they even follow brands, right? It's something where they connected and they wanted to see something that was very that touched them at a deeper level. But the biggest changes that we are starting to see, at least trends that are happening in the social media world and advertising, is that not only is the content becoming more bold, which I love and I appreciate, but the graphics are unbelievable. You know, you take a look at some of the ads maybe you have run in the last year and hold that up against some of the modern graphics that people are starting to use right now. The graphics are really, really starting to get very, very, very engaging. We are seeing artificial intelligence being used at a whole different level. We're seeing, I mean, people can make GIFs and those type of things, but animation, using animation and motion. Now, here's the funny thing. I stood up 7 years ago when I spoke at a conference, and I told people in the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to see a massive increase in video, not just in the feeds, but in video and ads. Well, sure enough, there's been an 87% increase in all videos. And these videos are like mini testimonials. And if you can get your customers and your clients to do them for you, now you're cooking with gas. Now you're winning.